once you understand your customizations and your settings for all your projects, the editing process goes so much smoother. So let's start off by, or let me start off by showing you that you can actually resize these windows. And once you've decided that you like the resizing of any one of these windows, you can save this workspace as a custom workspace. But before you begin, I'd like to advise you to practice in an empty project. In other words, open up a blank project and practice resizing the windows, because inevitably what may happen is you may get stuck with something that you don't like and you may not know how to get out of it. And if that's the case, you can simply close the project and try a different empty project until you get good at moving things around, because it is a little bit of a challenge and it does require practice. So to begin with, if you wanted to resize some of these larger windows, so for instance the source and the program window, if you park your cursor between them, your cursor changes to a double flat arrow. You see how mine's changing there? See that? So if I mouse click and drag, I can resize these two windows. Pretty handy. And you can actually do that, of course, between a four spot, meaning if I go to an area where there are several windows, I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, but there we go, my cursor will change to a quad arrow. I can move all together at the same time. Actually, there's a better example. If I go over here, right, there we go, mouse click and I'll drag that, then I can resize these windows all at the same time, which is really convenient. Again, once you've decided on what you like, then you can save this workspace. Now, the way to do that, the way to save the workspace, is if you navigate up to the word window, mouse click on workspace and select new workspace. Then you can type your name in and select OK. Now, I'm not going to do this. I've already done it. So once you click on the OK button, then if you go back up to the word window, select workspace, you'll see the custom name you gave it. And there's mine, Frank's Custom Workspace, which is quite nice because no matter where you're at, once you create that custom workspace, let's say you've done something that you don't like, you can just go back up to the word window, mouse click, select workspace, and then select reset current workspace, and it'll reset it back to your custom workspace. The other cool thing too is you may want to make changes even after you create your workspace. Let's say you want to make an adjustment. So for instance, I can mouse click on this particular window, check this out, and drag it over. Notice how when I drag it, you don't see anything, which makes this confusing. I want to put it next to the toolbar. Now this is important. Notice how, I haven't let the mouse go yet. I simply mouse clicked and dragged. This again takes practice, but notice how I get different highlighted areas, which all result in a slightly different result. So if I want that audio meters window to be independent, then I would park it at the top, just like that. And when I let it go, it becomes an independent window. However, what happens is, I know this is confusing, it actually hid the toolbar. So I want to show you how to make it a separate window. Not just an independent window, a separate window. So if I mouse click on this and I drag it over and I make sure that the highlight is on the right, when I let it go, now it becomes a separate window. Again, did you see that? The highlight was on the right. So I'll back up. I'll put it back to where it was just a moment ago. Now this is not a bad thing. Sometimes people like this, where they just click on a tab. To me, this is kind of a waste of a lot of space, because if I close this, I'm actually hiding the other window. Or the other option there. So I'm going to mouse click on this and drag it to the right. There we go. Notice how there's a slight purple highlight there. When I let it go, there we go. Now it becomes an independent window, or what I call an independent window. If I save this now, if I navigate up to the word File, Save, every time I open this project, this is how the layout will be. If I don't like this layout for whatever reason, again, you go back up to the word Window, select Workspace, reset current workspace, select yes, and everything goes back to where it was. And then you can still make additional adjustments from that point on as well, which is still a great thing. Okay, the other item that I wanted to show you is not only can you move these tabs around and these windows around like I just did. Let me put this media browser back. You can move these around and you can decide on where you want to go. Each one of these windows has a lot of customization that I want to show you real quick. So for instance, I'll start over here in the project window. As a matter of fact, I'm going to mouse click and drag this over. Just to show you that basically all these columns here can be moved as well. So for instance, I happen to like the video duration window to be further to the left. So if I mouse click and drag, you see how I'm doing this? And there's a little purple bar there. As soon as I let this go, now it became the first column, which is quite nice. And I can actually sort by duration now. If I click on the very top one of this column or any column, it'll sort that column. So by default, it sorts by name over here in the Project tab. And if you wanted to sort by frame rate or media type or in and out points, there's all kinds of options here. You can do that. The other item that I want to show you over here in the Project window is you can change the way this looks. And for instance, right now this is in the list view. If I click down here, I can click on the icon view and then I get these icons. Now this may not seem like a big deal. Where it does work out a lot better is if I go into a bin. Double click on a bin, and then basically there we go, the icon view is very, very handy, and I can mouse click on this tab here and then drag it straight up. Remember, this is going to take practice. You want this purple highlight to be at the top, and I'll let it go. Now it's an independent tab separate from the Project tab. And as a matter of fact, I can click on this list view, have this tab in list view and this tab in icon view. And what's nice about this is as an editor, I can go back over here to another bin, double click on it, and I could keep this separate if I want. It's kind of floating around now as I edit, which is nice. If I have another monitor, I can drag it over to a separate monitor and open it up full screen and really get good visual representation as to what is in that bin. But I do like to do the following, where I just create these bins here at the top in the icon view, and now I can bounce between these two bins just like that. In fact, I'll put this Project tab back over. I'll mouse click and drag it over. There we go. The other item that I wanted to bring to your attention too is I can adjust the size of these thumbnails. Look how large these get or how small they can get. And the great thing about this is I'll go to like what I'll call like a medium size right there. If I click on any one of these clips, well, first of all, I can scrub through the clip. See that? That's actually very handy. If I click on one of these clips, notice how I get a playhead. I can mouse click and drag this and I can scrub through the clip. That's very convenient. I can mark an in and out point. Looks like I already marked in and out points here, but let's do it again. So if I drag this over here, my playhead, and I push the letter I on my keyboard, I just created or updated the endpoint. Check this out. So if I drag this over here to the far right and I push the letter O, I'll get an out point. And now I can simply drag this straight down to my sequence. That is a very handy feature without having to go into the source monitor. Now you still can, of course, but this is very handy in doing some real quick edits. As a matter of fact, one more bonus little feature, since I'm working on a Mac, I can command click these clips in any order that I want. And on a PC, it would be control click. And based on where my playhead is down in the sequence, I can automate those clips, just those clips. I can automate them by clicking on this button here. This is kind of a little bonus, side bonus lesson here. I can click on this assemble to sequence, and I'll get this little window that will allow me to add a dissolve, a default dissolve, and a few other options here. I select OK, and all those clips just now came down to the sequence in the order that I clicked on them here in this particular icon view within this bin. Very cool. So I'm going to undo that. Push Command Z to undo that. And if I wanted to close the way this bin is open, I can navigate up to this little grid button, mouse click and select Close Panel. And what that'll do is it basically just closed it. It didn't affect my Project tab at all. In fact, I'll close this one. Again, I'll click on that little grid button and select Close Panel. And now I'm back to where I was just a moment ago before I did that. So very handy within this particular tab. Lots of good stuff there that I just showed you. And of course, even if I'm in list view, I can increase the size by clicking on this like I did when it was in thumbnail view or when it was in icon view. And the same down here, if I'm in this particular window, I can increase or decrease the thumbnail. These are called thumbnails down here because remember, we're looking at an external hard drive or a source that's not within Premiere. So you can increase or decrease the size of that as well. And of course, you can move these tabs around. The other item that I wanted to bring to your attention is you can, if you look closely, there's a little wrench button, and I mentioned this in a previous lesson. You can click on this wrench button and bring up certain things. So for instance, if I wanted to reference the audio that I recorded when I captured this video, I would click on Audio Waveform, and then it shows me the footprint of the audio. If I go back to this little wrench, I can go back and select Composite Video, then I'm back on the video. But a couple of other things here that I think is important is you've got all these scopes here, or you can loop the video if you wanted to. If you were using your edit system to display some video and you just wanted it to loop. But you can bring up some scopes. You can bring up all of your scopes, which is real handy when you're color correcting. So you've got similar features. I'll put this back in composite video. You have similar features over here with this wrench as well, and then you have another wrench down here that I showed in a previous lesson. I just kind of breezed over, but I'll show you real quick. You can turn a lot of these features on or off, and the one that I like is you can minimize tracks or expand tracks. If I minimize, it cleans it up real nice. If I go back and select expand, of course it increases the size. Very handy visually to increase my efficiency when it comes to editing. A couple of other things here. This little toolbar here, or tool area within my source and my program, I can customize this. If I click on this little plus button here, I get this menu, and I can add certain features. So for instance, if I wanted to add, let's say, this play into out, which is it down there already? No, it's not down there. So I'll mouse click and I'll drag it down. And there we go. If I wanted to put one back, I can. Just like that, I got rid of it, so I mouse clicked and I dragged it straight back. Very handy when you want to customize this area. Here, we'll get rid of that one. Whoops, there we go. And I'll just select OK. You also have the same feature over here underneath the source monitor. Before I forget, I want to show you when one of these windows closes. So let's say the program window's closed. So I'll close it. I'll navigate up to this little grid button, mouse click, and select Close Panel. This applies to any of the windows that are closed. So if a window is closed and you're thinking, where is it? How do I get it back? You can always check by navigating over here to the word window here at the top menu, mouse click, and then just go down the list. And any item with a check mark next to it indicates that it's open. So let's look for the program monitor. There it is. So I'll click on that. And there we go. I brought that window right back by simply going up to the word window and checking down this list. And I highly recommend that if something's not there or it's not open, that you check there first.